Good morning, I'm Charles Edwards, Assistant News Director and reporter for 90.1 FM WABE. We'd like to welcome our viewers to the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series, originating from Rhodes Hall, the headquarters for the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation. This is the primary runoff debate among the Republican candidates for Henry County Commission Chair. Let's meet the candidates. They are in alphabetical order. Elizabeth B.J. Mathis is in her third year as Henry County Commission Chair. She was awarded the Senator Gail Buckner's Legacy of Leadership Award for her contributions to her community. Tommy Smith was previously a councilman and served as mayor for the city of Hampton, Georgia. He is retired from the FAA as an air traffic controller. Tommy declined to participate today and is represented by an empty chair. Here's the format for today's debate. Since we only have one candidate, we'll start by asking the candidate two questions. The candidate will then ask a question to her opponent, represented by the empty chair. The panel will finish asking questions of the candidate until we run out of time. Our candidate will then have 30 seconds to make a closing statement. Before we get started, let's meet our panelists selected by the Atlanta Press Club. First, we have Jim Burris, who is a reporter and host of Weekend Edition on 90.1 WABE. We also have Devin Feely, a reporter for 11 Alive. And our final panelist is Jason Smith, a staff writer for the Henry Daily Herald. Now let's get started with the debate. In our first round, our candidate will be asked two questions by our panel. The candidates will have 60 seconds to answer, and by random selection, Jason Smith will ask the first question.
We've all heard a lot in recent weeks up to the primary that was held regarding the T-Splost, and the T-Splost was defeated, the referendum was. Since that was defeated and rejected by the voters, what are your options for improving traffic in Henry County?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Jason. The state legislature passed the law, and the state legislature is who put that on the ballot for the voters. And the voters in Henry County resoundingly said no, 75% to 25%. But the good news about that is they have a lot of confidence in our local SPLOST. And the last one that we put on the ballot for our voters was quite the opposite. 75% approved it, while 25% were not in favor of it. And we have a very successful SPLOST program. It's the most successful program we've had in the history of Henry County SPLOST programs. And so I'm confident that the voters have confidence in the Board of Commissioners with a local SPLOST when that comes around for a vote in 2013, that we will get the same overwhelming support we got back in 2008.
Devin Feely, it's your turn to ask B.J. Mathis a question.
Well, Chair, let me ask you a general question. What would you identify as some of the most pressing problems facing Henry County currently, and then what are your, briefly, solutions?
One of the biggest issues that we face as a county is the foreclosure crisis, and that has affected counties all across the state of Georgia. And what we need to do is we need to create an environment to absorb these foreclosed homes and get people back in them. And the way you do that is through economic development. Over the past few years, I have worked very closely with the Henry County Development Authority and the Chamber of Commerce and other business leaders to try to attract new industry to our community to create a demand for housing. As a result, we have brought in 11 new industries and 1,400 new jobs. So Henry County is beginning to turn the corner on this recession, and it takes a lot of hard work to do that.
That concludes our first round of the debate. In our second round, since B.J. Mathis's opponent, Tommy Smith, declined to participate today, B.J. will now ask a question to her opponent, represented by the empty chair. And B.J., you will have time for rebuttal after you ask the question.
Wonderful. Well, Tommy, what I would like to ask you is, you have refused to meet me in public debates throughout this campaign. 2 times you quit in the middle of your term when you were serving in public office as the mayor of Hampton. Today's forum is not the first time you've been missing in action. Leadership is tough, and you have to take the time to talk with your constituents and your adversaries. If you can't handle a single interaction with me in the full view of the voters, how will you handle the pressures of being in office?
And B.J., you now have time to give a rebuttal to what you think your opponent, Tommy Smith, would have said.
My rebuttal to this is, I know how to handle pressure. Tommy does not. I have served in the worst economy in 70 years, and I will continue to fight challenges brought forth by our rapid population growth. I focused on solving the problems that confront our county, and I have turned ideas into actions and actions into solutions. I did not walk away when the going got tough. As your chairman, I won't dodge the tough issues. I will lead. My opponent's record demonstrates that he does not have the ability to complete what he starts.
Time. For those who may be joining our program in progress, this is the debate among the candidates in the Republican runoff election for Henry County Commission Chair. Tommy Smith declined to participate in today's debate and is represented by an empty chair. For our next round, we return to our panel of journalists who will ask B.J. Mathis questions. B.J. will be allowed 60 seconds to respond, and we begin this round with a question from Jim Burris.
You're campaigning on a track record of cutting spending. So first, just a quick yes or no question. Do you think that federal spending is out of control?
Yes.
A year ago, Henry County purchased Terra Field from Clayton County for $17.7 million. But the Federal Aviation Administration paid 85% of that cost. Money well spent, or is this an example of tax, borrow, and spend federal government?
That is a good question. The federal government does have a history of out-of-control spending, and typically what they spend funds on are not things that we get a good return on. We know that in Henry County, we must grow our economy. And in order to do that, we have to have an airport that can accommodate traffic. Hartsfield-Jackson Airport is at capacity. We need reliever airports in and around the metro area that will help facilitate growing our economy and bringing jobs. With the deepening of the Savannah Harbor coming up, and with Hartsfield-Jackson to our north, there has to be a place where we can move freight in and out of the metro area without continuing to tax Hartsfield Airport. This is an investment the federal government makes that will bring us a return with jobs, and that's what we need in our economy. We need to boost jobs in our economy.
Devin Feely, it's your turn to ask B.J. Mathis a question.
I'd like to ask you a follow-up question on Terra Field. There are some people that have contended that this is an expensive boondoggle, that it has been a drain on the county's resources and coffers. Your response?
Well, that is misinformation. As a matter of fact, since Terra Field has been in the hands of Henry County, it has operated in the black. The airport itself, it generates enough revenue to pay all the expenses associated with it, so it has not been a drain. You know, and I always bring up the fact that we had an industry that located to Georgia, Baxter Pharmaceuticals. I would have loved to have been in the running to lure that business to Henry County, but because our runway was 1,000 foot too short, we were eliminated from the process before we even came to the table to have the discussion. And
our next question comes from Jason Smith.
It kind of goes on the same track of what has already been asked, but the idea of reckless spending. We've been hearing a lot of people talk in the community, as well as your opponent, about reckless spending by the Board of Commissioners. What is your response to that charge?
I'm so glad you asked that question, Jason. Henry County has a SPLOST program that was passed in 2008. We also collect development impact fees on all new residential and commercial construction in the county. And 95% of Henry County's purchases since 2004 have been paid for by these special funds. Only 5% has come from the general fund budget. And you know, when you collect SPLOST tax dollars, you must spend them in the way that they have been designated. And the same thing with impact fees. To use those funds for anything else would be illegal, and we cannot use it to pay salaries or to supplant our budget. So we have spent the funds that have been collected in the way that the voters approved and in the way that the law mandates.
Our next question comes from Jim Burris.
Census data show per capita retail spending for Henry County residents is about 20% lower than the state average. This even with household income at 20% above the state average. So since a portion of sales taxes go right to county government, how do you encourage residents to spend their money in Henry County and not come to, say, Atlanta to make purchases?
That's one of the issues and challenges that we face. We are actually underserved by retail development in Henry County. There's been a number of proposals for some upscale retail establishments to be built in our community. We have a company we've talked to for a number of years, but we needed some infrastructure improvements in place, the Jodico Road Bridge being one of those. but they don't have the places to go. So that's why many of our citizens will go to the north side of Atlanta, but we hope to attract this industry, this higher retail industry to Henry County so we can keep those SPLOST dollars at home.
And our next question comes from Devin Feely.
Chair, Henry County is a county that has seen growth in recent years. How do you find the balance between growth and encouraging that and quality of life?
You know, that is a tough balance. And you also have to throw in there the balance of also protecting people's property rights as well. What we've done to manage the growth in the county is we've been very aggressive at adopting a comprehensive land use plan. Before I took office, that plan had not been updated since 1992. We have that plan in place, and so we will manage growth and make sure the right thing ends up in the right place. But beyond that, I want to bring it back to economic development. We must bring new jobs and industry to our community. That's the only way that we're going to end much of the traffic congestion that we see on I-75, as 69% of our people leave the county each day to go to their jobs. That's quality of life when you're spending hours in traffic trying to get back and forth to your job.
Well, we have no more time for questions. Each of the Republican candidates in the runoff election for Henry County Commission Chair will now have 30 seconds to make a closing statement. Since Tommy Smith declined to participate, BJ Mathis will make her closing statement.
Thank you. We must be a community that embraces ideas that made America great. Mom and pop businesses, manufacturing, and now technology. If we slam the door on businesses, we slam the door on a prosperous future for our children and grandchildren. I understand that. I am a leader who will lead. I am a leader who will not quit and walk away from my responsibilities when things get tough. Please go to my Facebook page, Elizabeth B.J. Mathis, for more information, or my website, bjmathis.com, or follow us on Twitter for more information. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
All right, and that concludes our debate. We'd like to remind voters that the primary runoff election takes place on Tuesday, August 21st. Our thanks to our candidates and to our panel of journalists. We'd also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club for arranging today's debate, and Rhodes Hall, the headquarters for the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation, for hosting us. For more information about Rhodes Hall, you may go to rhodeshall.org. And for more information about Georgia Trust, you can go to georgiatrust.org. I'm Charles Edwards. Thanks for joining us for the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series.